Now to discuss the status of the spending negotiations. And Congressman, we're having some technical difficulties, but you did make an analogy to stacking trillions of dollars on top of each other. Can you kind of explain where you see things? Because when I saw what you said, it really helps give you a visual.
Well, when you look at a total with this reconciliation, the 3.5, the 1.2 trillion in the infrastructure bill, it adds up to $4.7 trillion. If the American people understand, if you took a dollar bill and started stacking them on top of each other, we would have enough money there, tall enough, to reach to the moon and a third of the way back. It's over 300,000 miles of dollar bills stacked on top of each other. And it's just an enormous amount of money. And the American people need to realize we can't afford this spending anymore.
And Congressman, earlier today, Senator Bill Cassidy, a Republican, was on with Neil Cavuto. And Neil asked him, is this just Bernie Sanders' world and we're just living in it? And the senator said, well, no, because the infrastructure package and the spending bills have not passed yet. But he did add this. Take a listen.
But if you mean that people are willing to hold hostage a piece of legislation that would make the life of the average American much better, with better jobs, and they hold it hostage, either because they want to oppose it, because one side puts it up and they don't, or they want to hold it hostage to get another agenda forward. I'm not sure that's just Bernie. That seems to be a lot of people.
Congressman, do you believe the American people and their needs are being held hostage right now?
Well, this is what I do know with the Democrats. There's dissension within the ranks. And whether it's the 1.2 trillion infrastructure package, when you look at it, I was driving over here just a few minutes ago, and we're experiencing an enormous amount of rain in Houston. And it took me an enormous amount of time to get over here because I was driving my car through a foot of water. And there were many cars that were stranded on the side of the road. So if this is truly about infrastructure, fixing our roads and bridges, I would support that, and I think the American people would support that. But the idea that we're going to give $1 billion a year for the next 5 years to place charging stations for electric vehicles across the entire country is not a taxpayer funded. We shouldn't be using taxpayer dollars to fund that. When has government ever built a gas station? So why are we spending billions of dollars on putting these electric vehicle stations around the country when only 2% of our vehicles today are electric?
There are about 24 Republicans, 24 of your colleagues, who do support the bipartisan infrastructure bill that we just can't seem to get to at this point. But you're not one of them. What would bring you around?
Well, number one, meaningful infrastructure. And you're right. I will be a no in its current form, and I've made that very clear. The idea that we're going to use your tax dollars, this Green New Deal is being jammed down our throats, the throats of the American people, and we're spending billions and billions of dollars. You know, I'm about the oil and gas industry, but there's got to be a compromise. The idea that the taxpayer is going to be paying for these electric charging stations around the country when only 2% of the vehicles on the road today are electric. Maybe, you know, government motors, General Motors and Tesla should be paying for these. Why is the American people? And I just can't support that in and of itself. That's just one of the irresponsible price tags in this bill, this 1.2 trillion, and I can't support it.
Okay, and in terms of the midterms that are coming up, the 2024, is this just a moment for Republicans to kind of sit back and let Democrats just fight amongst themselves? Because that seems to be what's happening right now. Is this a benefit for Republicans right now, and does that matter to you right now?
Oh, it does, and I think it is a benefit. Listen, the president to travel to the Capitol yesterday, he needs to sell this. When you look at the Democrats over the last, 9 months now, and look at their domestic policy, what do we have? We saw $6 trillion go into the COVID response. And where do we see COVID today? We have the American people being pitted against each other. We have a president who wants to do mandatory vaccines on every American, and he's pitted the American people up against each other. Businesses with over 100 employees, we're going to have OSHA come and fine you thousands of dollars. So this administration realizes they've done a poor job at the southern border. We spent so much money. You've got Afghanistan. They need a win. They need a win so desperately, and they feel they need to pass this legislation or they're going to have a very difficult time in 2022.
Well, wait, Congressman, you talk about spending, and we're looking at the debt ceiling, mid-March, mid-October, sorry, wrong month. This is money that was spent by both and supported by both parties over the last year. The bill is finally coming due. What do Republicans need to do at this point?
Well, do what I'm doing. I have voted no. I didn't vote for the continuing resolution. That's what we do in government today. We don't take a budget and go through the normal budget process. We just do continuing resolutions, these CRs. And that's what we did the other day, the Democrats, to keep the government open until December 3rd. I don't support that idea. I like the idea of going through the normal channels. Do what's right for the American taxpayer instead of just saddling millions, billions, trillions of dollars on the American people. And it's enough money, folks, to take you straight to the moon.
Congressman Troy Nehls of Texas, we thank you for joining us today, and thank you for making it through that awful commute. It sounded kind of dangerous. So thank you for being here today.